Imagine you are a medieval lord, gazing out over your vast land from the watchtower. There are fields, there are guards, there are stone walls. Now switch to ancient Australia. You step onto a vast land with no signs, no borders, no sentries, and you think, "Aha! Terra nullius! Mine now!" Hold up. You'd better put that stick down before a voice echoes from behind a rock. That leaning tree was placed there by our ancestors. That shallow hole over there is where a Dreamtime hero used to take shelter whenever the serpent came, and you're standing on the land of our clan since thousands of years ago. Aboriginal people didn't need fortresses or border markers. They used a much more sophisticated system: collective memory, Dreamtime stories, and songlines. Songlines are invisible routes, guiding people through sacred sites, connecting legends of the Dreamtime beings. Every nation, every group has its own lines to travel past mountain peaks, rivers, and rocks, like a spiritual GPS mapped onto the palm and the memory. Aboriginal people are taught from a young age to read the land using eyes, ears, and nose. Every rock, tree mark, or animal sound, all are part of a language that tells whether you're on the right path or not. And most importantly, there's no need to draw a border, because everyone already knows which land belongs to whom. You just have to sing the wrong part of a songline, take one step over the creek, and you're immediately recognized as an outsider. That's how boundary awareness works here. Subtle, intangible, and entirely based on the honor of oral tradition. There's nothing that shows more respect for land than knowing, this is not my land, it belongs to someone's spirit. And when everyone knows that, there's no need for stone walls or moats. So next time you're wandering through the Aussie outback and see a stone with strange markings or a crooked branch lying across the track, don't assume it's random. You might be standing on the very border of an invisible spiritual world where honor shines brighter than any fortress. Try imagining a world where there are no paper maps, no sovereignty markers, no border patrol. But if you accidentally sit in the wrong spot, you might be offending a legend thousands of years old. Well, no one's going to arrest you on the spot, but an ancestor's spirit might just visit you in your dreams. Just a gentle warning. In Aboriginal culture, territory isn't marked by stone walls or trenches, but by memory, story, and especially ritual. Every creek, every hill, every old tree carries a Dreamtime tale, and those very stories are the invisible fences guarding each tribe's territory. Walking across a strange land, no need to look for signs, just listen carefully. If you hear a group singing about the spirit of Tidalik, the giant frog who drank all the world's water, then you'll know you've stepped into a place where that legend is at the heart of the culture. And if Tidalik isn't your ancestor, best turn back. In many places, each river has its own song. Every big rock is a spiritual marker, and no one dares cross these boundaries without knowing the right. Unlike applying for a visa, you don't need papers, just the right ceremony. Want to pass through another tribe's land? First, approach the boundary, invisible, but as well known as the back of everyone's hand. Then perform a ritual known as asking permission from the ancestors, usually by burning leaves, singing some Dreamtime verses, or sending an envoy with offerings. If accepted, you won't just be allowed to pass. You'll be guided warmly, offered a meal, maybe even told a mystical tale to take home. If you skip the ritual, best case, you're asked to leave. Worst case, you're seen as violating the sacred, and the consequences, well, no one dares to predict. Respecting territory isn't enforced by police or written law, but by belief in the Dreamtime, the era when the creator ancestors shaped the land, rivers, creatures, and even rules of life. Each act of trespass on sacred ground isn't just physical, it's a touch upon the cosmic spiritual balance. An Aboriginal people believe the universe rebalances itself. If you cross the line, you'll be adjusted, Not always with punishment, but perhaps with disturbing dreams, unexplainable illness, or bizarre misfortune. Many recount that after accidentally camping in a forbidden zone, they suffered fevers and only recovered after performing a ceremony to apologize to the ancestors of that land. Coincidence? Aboriginal people say, no, that's Dreamtime teaching you a lesson. The most effective land protection system Aboriginal people have isn't fences or weapons, it's collective memory. Every member of the tribe knows exactly where their land's borders are, not from books, but from hearing, dancing, and singing countless times about where their ancestors walked and what they left behind. Adults don't teach kids with maps. They point to a hill and say, "See that? Our ancestor, the rainbow serpent spirit, rested there after creating this river. Never go past that without permission." And that's enough. Kids remember with their whole heart. No one forgets, and no one dares cross over. If you're thinking, what if one day they forget where the borders are? Then you haven't understood the power of oral tradition. Aboriginal people remember stories and spaces with astonishing precision. They don't just tell stories, they sing, dance, etch into rocks, use symbols, reenact rituals, and repeat them their whole lives. An elder can remember dozens of sacred peaks, hundreds of Dreamtime journeys, so precisely that losing them is like losing a cultural library that can't be copied. That's also why whenever a conflict arises, the entire community gathers, not just to solve the issue, but to ensure correct remembrance of the boundary, the tradition, and the ancestral law. Have you ever heard the saying, "It's a small world"? For Aboriginal people, the world is very small, especially when everyone is somehow related. And in a world without fortresses or front lines, well, kinship is the first line of defense. With no professional military system, no fortresses to defend, Aboriginal people invented an astonishingly sophisticated and sustainable protective system, an interwoven kinship system, where in-laws are not just family, but also gatekeepers. In Western thinking, protecting territory often goes hand in hand with fighting. High walls, guards, iron fences, maybe even landmines if you're going big. But for Aboriginal people, protection doesn't necessarily mean the clash of weapons. They built an extensive kinship network where every marital alliance was a sturdy bridge connecting one tribe to another, not to expand territory, but to maintain peace. You married a girl from a neighboring tribe? Congratulations. You just gained at least 20 strong brothers-in-law, 3 very chatty sisters-in-law, and a whole bunch of new people who'd be pretty upset if someone messed with you. Aboriginal social structure doesn't revolve around a central state or monarchy, but rather a tangled web of relationships like a woven tapestry. Every point of connection is a marriage, sponsorship, ceremony, cultural exchange, and of course, mutual protection. So if someone's planning to go at you, they don't just have to face your tribe, but also keep an eye on your in-laws up north, the folks you had a ceremony with down south, and that uncle from your mum's side who once went snake hunting with you out west. War in this model isn't something you can easily start. It's not like, I feel like it so I'll attack, but more like, attack them? But they're my wife's uncle's cousins. Don't get it wrong. Aboriginal people marry for love and emotion, but at the same time, marriage is also a subtle political tool. The more intertribal marriages, the more tacit agreements are made. Commitment to help when needed, commitment to maintain peace between lands, commitment to share resources and traditional knowledge. An old tribal man once said, "If you don't want to get hit, make sure the person planning to hit you is your wife's cousin's auntie's brother-in-law." That's it. In this world, complexity equals safety. Besides defense, this alliance network is also the world's oldest social security system. During times of drought, bushfires, or simply when no fish are caught, you could go stay over on your in-laws' land on one condition. You must observe the rituals and be a polite guest. And you know what? That's what prevented tribes from needing to invade each other. Because if you're hungry, you don't think about conquest. You think about your wife's place over the mountain. You might be tense before eating, but once they give you grilled fish, it's hard to draw your spear. If a tribe chooses to attack another, they risk being cut off from the alliance network, meaning no more ritual item exchanges, no one letting you crash during the dry season, no more daughters married off to that tribe, and most importantly, losing support when you're in trouble. So, a decision to attack is never taken lightly. Every raised spear sends ripples through the whole network. And if both sides are related by marriage, conflict usually stops at symbolic or ritual levels, like verbal duels, singing, dancing as warnings. Rarely does it draw blood. Each child born from a marital alliance is not just a grandchild. They are a living peace marker. They're proof of connection between two tribes. A bridge, a guarantee that says, if we fight, who'll raise my child? And that question usually makes everyone stop and think. Sometimes, in rare disputes, a child becomes a natural peacemaker because they belong to both sides. And no one wants to hurt a child carrying both sacred bloodlines. The deeper you go into Aboriginal culture, the clearer it becomes. Defense is not about barriers, but connections. And the fortress they built wasn't from stone, but from weddings. Sounds funny, but it's a brilliantly smart security model, one that protects, nurtures, and maintains knowledge exchange without wasting resources on large-scale warfare. You think intelligence work is just for the CIA, MI6, or fedora hat spies lurking in crowds. Wrong, mate. Aboriginal people had a 24/7 intelligence network, no earpieces, no hidden cameras, no underground mountain HQs, no border posts, no guards. But try setting foot in their sacred land without permission and see what happens. Within hours, or faster, a tribal elder across the desert will know you hid food under your armpit. Because here, info moves faster than a hungry kangaroo in plum season. Aboriginal people are taught from childhood, everything leaves a trace. There's no such thing as walking on sand unnoticed. A snapped twig, a fallen feather, distant cooking smoke, it's all data. They are masters of tracking. You just veered past the hill behind the pink bush, people know. How tall you are, who you were with, if your left foot's hurting, what you ate yesterday based on the lingering smell of your fire in your hair. It's not magic, it's observational skill passed down through tens of thousands of years of living close to nature. A 9-year-old boy can read a stranger's biography from footprints, and that's how intelligence works. Thought no one saw. Wait, you don't know your wife's cousin is besties with the firekeeper's sister-in-law? Aboriginal people have a secret weapon, a system of information flow through storytelling and ceremony. A small tale, like a stranger camped near the sacred waterhole, gets told over dinner, sung in a ritual, shared with the hunting party, and spreads like radio waves. And just like that, everyone knows. No Facebook, no CCTV, but dozens of aunties and uncles who can describe the exact sandals you wore that day. In the Western model, spies are a special profession, but in Aboriginal society, everyone's an observer. Men hunting animals also note neighbouring group movements. Women gathering greens notice weird signs on trees, disturbed bushes, or new footprints. Everything is remembered and shared through stories, sand drawings, or sung during evening ceremonies. They don't say, "I spied on an intruder today." They say, "A wallaby ran past the stream like the young bloke from the faraway tribe." Everyone understands. Dreamtime culture is an oral culture, and most information is preserved through songs. Songlines, or song paths, aren't just navigation tools. They record important events, past and present. Someone sings a new song in public, everyone listens. If that song's about someone accidentally wandering into forbidden land, The whole community knows. No email or press release needed. This way of sharing info is incredibly effective, and it comes with a catchy melody. Because marriage networks, ritual exchanges, and kinship ties stretch for hundreds of kilometers, you're never really outside surveillance range. Think you've gone 4 days' walk and escaped, but you're standing on land where your great-grandma once played didgeridoo with the current elder's granddad, so they remember you. And if you act weird, your story will fly home faster than you can. This is why secret invasions are near impossible. Every step leaves a cultural echo. And the community doesn't forget that. You can't just slip into Aboriginal land like a 7-Eleven. A stranger must present in ceremony, sing the right path songs, and have someone vouch for them. If not, you'll be seen as a strange animal. And strange animals are closely watched, just like a security guard asking, "Where are you going?" Aboriginal people have their own way of checking ID. They ask you to sing the correct travelling song. Can't sing? Busted. Beyond practical elements, there's also a layer of spiritual surveillance. Dreamtime stories clearly say land has spirit, and that spirit sees everything. An ancestral snake once slid through this place. It left a song, a mark, and energy. If you offend the land, the universe reacts. Maybe an accident, illness, or simply a dream warning the guardian. This isn't a threat, it's a firm belief in the human-land connection, and that's why many Aboriginal people just know things without anyone telling them. We've explored a series of incredibly smart defensive strategies, without walls, checkpoints, or armor-clad patrols. But now you might be wondering if all boundaries are crossed, if every warning is ignored, if every spiritual signal and ceremonial chant is dismissed like wind in the trees. What happens then? Is there a Dreamtime riot police? Does someone jump out of the bushes with a boomerang yelling, "Stop right there"? Oh yes. But they don't call it war, they call it a ceremonial dispute. And don't expect gleaming swords or booming cannons. Because Aboriginal people have their own way of armed protection, soft as sand, but sharp as flint. First, let's be clear, Aboriginal people have weapons and they know how to use them. But the difference is, they're not for show, they're survival tools, and only used when truly necessary. For example, boomerang. A symbolic weapon, but not just for tossing around like in cartoons. Some types don't return, designed to fly far and hit hard. Woomera. A tool that adds force to spear throwing, like an ancient launcher, helping the weapon fly faster and further. Nulla, fighting stick. Compact, sturdy, used in close combat, often carved with ceremonial patterns, both a weapon and a symbol of honor. What's special is each weapon often carries ceremonial meaning, tied to traditional law. You don't just grab one and start swinging. In Western culture, wars often start over. "You crossed my border, mate?" But in Aboriginal culture, it's more complex. A conflict might erupt because of a word that disrespected the ancestors, someone singing the wrong song line while crossing another's land, a marriage that ignored proper ceremonies, or someone not sharing sacred offerings fairly. It's like borrowing someone's car, not washing it, and filling it with the wrong petrol. The issue isn't material, it's respect. If all reconciliation efforts fail, what follows is a payback fight. But don't picture a Mad Max-style brawl. Not at all. It happens like this. 1. Advance notice, both sides know it's coming. 2. Carefully chosen site, usually sacred, neutral ground with witnesses. 3. Equal weapons, everyone uses equivalent tools, no super swords or premium armor. 4. Clear rules, the goal isn't to kill, but to restore honor. Example, person A did wrong. Person B is allowed to throw a spear at A. If it hits, A has paid the debt. If A dodges, it means apology accepted and forgiven. Done. It sounds like a game, but the consequences are real. Injuries do happen, but behind it is a complete legal system, unwritten but known to all. What makes Aboriginal armed protection unique is that weapons are actually belief, honor, and community. Someone who behaves wrongly will be stripped of ceremonial honor, not be allowed to sing the song lines, be unwelcome at gatherings, be forgotten, excluded from the storytelling network. In such a tightly knit society, being isolated is more painful than getting speared. So people tend to resolve conflicts in the gentlest way and only turn to weapons as a last resort. Have you seen those warriors dancing, face-painted fierce, yelling and slapping their thighs? That's no circus act. It's a way to ward off potential conflict. These ceremonial dances can intimidate enemies, relieve internal tension, transform anger into artistic action, allow the other side to retreat with honor. In other words, ritual is the soothing weapon. Sometimes just one intense dance, one deep song, and people can reconcile without a real fight. Some people look at Aboriginal culture and say, oh, they don't know how to fight like Europeans. But that's the wrong view. Aboriginal people choose not to fight because they understand the power of reconciliation. They live in a harsh land. One conflict could mean the whole community goes hungry, thirsty, or loses the path to their ancestors. So, fighting is the last resort and must be done with great responsibility. If you're waiting for a summary of merit, fault, reward, punishment after an Aboriginal conflict, then please sit down, sip a cup of tea, or rather a cool drink from a sacred rock hollow, because the lessons here aren't written in official records. They're sung, told, and become part of the land, that's right. In Dreamtime culture, major events don't end with a line in a report, but with a sacred story. In Western society, after a battle, there's a war report, lost statistics, treaties signed, flags planted, filed in the National Archive. But in the Aboriginal world, a conflict, big or small, can become a new storyline in the Dreamtime system, attached to a rock, a stream, a sand dune, or a strange tree. For example, a clash between two tribes might be told as Ainti Ai. The white heron accidentally flew over the rainbow serpent's land without permission. The argument made the moon angry, and it threw lightning between the two riverbanks, splitting the water. No one talks anymore about Mr. Boom and Mr. Bew fighting over a well. But later generations know that place is sacred water and must be bypassed if no ceremony is done. The result? An old conflict is recycled into natural law, passed down through songs, dances, and rock carvings, gentle yet deep. The Dreamtime myth system isn't a collection of bedtime fairy tales. It's like Google Maps plus Wikipedia plus the High Court rolled into one, in the form of stories with rainbow serpents, talking winds, and laughing mountains. Every overlapping rocky hill is a reminder. Once there was a grazing land dispute here, and the result was every oddly shaped sand patch is a sign. Here is where two clans reconciled don't pass through without a ritual. In that way, every past event isn't buried, but lives on in a form everyone can remember. A story. When a conflict ends, no one says, let's just forget it. And there's no, the winner writes the history. Instead, both sides create a version of the story acceptable to all. A dual myth, maybe a dance or a rock carving that captures the essence of the event without blaming. You see, protecting territory isn't just about boomerangs and invisible borders, but about collective memory, encoded in art and ceremony. The land does not forget. Every event is recorded by naming a location or creating a natural symbol. A claw-shaped rock pile might mark where two clans clashed and made peace. A snapped tree is where the spirit of the lawkeeper intervened to end the rage. You might walk past and see just rocks, but to locals it's a map of emotions, morals and history embedded in the landscape. All these legends aren't on paper. They're in the memories of grandparents, parents, tribal storytellers. Children from a young age are told stories in whispers by the fire, made to dance out the clash between the bat and the lizard, drawn in the sand with images to reenact old tales. And that's how the old lessons don't fade, but grow with new generations. Not just who Grandpa fought, but we once made mistakes, fixed them and learned. Yet Aboriginal people still hold on to their land with a weapon stronger than any wall, memory that is sung, told and lived in every step. Every time someone retells a legend about an old clash, it's a warning repeated, a lesson passed on, and one more day that land is protected.